All right, I guess our first item is call to order, and a quorum is present. Amanda and Jack are absent at this time, but hopefully they'll join us soon. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the December 1st meeting, a joint meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Adjustment. Is there any, everybody reviewed the minutes and any comments or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Heather makes the motion to approve. Any second?
I second.
Ben? Okay, Ben seconds it. There's no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right. Let me just, okay. I'm reading now off my phone. Okay, we're going to pop it. There we go. Okay, thank you. Consideration of a letter of design approval for 6 wall signs and exterior painting at 253 West Church Street is requested by Gina Griffin of Highland Real Estate, the applicant.
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners. And Gina wanted to apologize. She had a doctor's appointment, so she's not able to be here today. But if you have any questions, I'm certainly happy to try and relay them and answer them. So this is for the property that was Twisted Root Burger in Old Town. You can see it on the aerial map here. It is now going to be a Baja Cantina, which is a Mexican food restaurant. They have painted the sign, and they're proposing, or they painted the building to try to more evoke the Mexican restaurant theme. And they're also asking for a new sign package. The biggest challenge they had was with the sign that goes on the silo. As the Twisted Root Burger sign was painted onto the metal and then had neon tubing. They were not able to get the paint off or to find metal panels that would match. So their solution is to paint this red band that would actually go all around the silo, so it wouldn't be just a plain square. They wanted to make it look a little bit more incorporated than that. And then they would have aluminum letters. And those aluminum letters would have neon lighting similar to the existing Twisted Root sign. And just so you know, Jack Tidwell has arrived. So he will serve as our chair.
Thank you very much. Sorry about the delay. Do I need to take any action as we continue?
No, Randy was kind enough to kind of call us to order and get us started today.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jack.
They are adding a exterior wall sign, which is a fairly small entrance sign. This sign is designed for when you're entering from Church Street and you walk through one of the grain silos. This will kind of direct you to where you enter the building through the patio area. Mm-hmm. So again, a fairly small sign, also red with white exposed neon. They're also painting signs on the building, and I do have a better representation that I'll show you in just a minute. But they're going to paint the name of the building here, Baja Cantina, where it used to say Louisville Grain and Feed Storage. And then also on the north side of the building where you enter from the parking lot where it said Twisted Root Burger, they painted over that, and they will add Baja Cantina. This is not maybe the best rendering because they sort of cut this from here and put it there. They won't paint on that square. It'll just be the letters that get painted on. And then in the patio area, they'll add a sign that says, serve the Syria a taqueria. And these are all going to be in the same sort of set of colors with red and blue and yellow. And so there are 6 total signs, and they have painted the building. Most of it's snowbound, but as you can see, they've done some blue accents, blue trim, and then some yellow accents. And then a lot of the signage is red. And here I have one more image that I want to share with you, which is a slightly better rendering of how the painted signage will look. So this is, so you can see that Baja Cantina on the wall and the Cerveceria and Taqueria, and I apologize for my pronunciation. And this also shows you kind of the yellow rays that will come out from the Baja Cantina name that tie it back into the yellow accent on the wall here. So they are asking for approval of these 6 signs that are here for your consideration today. There are modifications to the number of signs permitted and modifications to the size of some of those signs. Staff doesn't have any objections or concern about anything that they've asked for. We think that it's a reasonable sign package. The one sign that Twisted Root had that was kind of above and beyond what our sign allowed was the large roof sign that kind of faced towards the southwest. But since traffic mostly comes from the east, it wasn't, I don't think, all that effective. And so Baja Cantina is not replacing that sign. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Any discussions or questions of staff of the committee?
Just one quick question. So there's approval of 6 signs, and there's really 5 modifications of the 6. Is that correct?
Correct. Let me.
There's 3 that are going from 25 to 54, and then 2 modifications, total all additional wall signs. Right?
Correct.
Okay. Right.
Any other questions, Randy? I have
Nope.
one. Going back to the page of the briefing that had 4 sign images on it. I don't know if the pages are numbered, so it is on the page prior to the picture of the receipt.
Yeah, let me get there for you.
And the visual is helpful. There it is. So with them replacing the Louisville grain and feed storage sign, does that indicate a larger shift in either ownership or operation or advertising for the entire strip? Or is it, was the Louisville grain and feed something that was incidental to begin with?
Yeah, it was, we didn't consider it a sign to begin with. It was more of a mural, since it really wasn't an advertisement for Twisted Root, and it was sort of more of a decorative thing. Now it's being replaced with a proper sign for Baja Cantina.
But it's not the name of the strip mall or the development itself, right?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't doing that inadvertently. So it was just a design aesthetic that's going to be replaced with a sign.
Correct.
Jack, if I may interrupt,
Please.
I think their whole silo concept, I think they were paying tribute to the tall silos that used to be there near a railroad. So I think they carried over some of those characteristics on their murals.
Well, you're hitting on exactly the reason why I'm kind of bringing it up. Is, are we losing something with that was provided by the previous presence by going over this? And I know that there's a lot of gray area in kind of the design concept, the kind of the trademark kind of appeal of a name like that or an image like that. And I just wanted to make sure we weren't inadvertently agreeing to lose a unique identifier to that location. That, June, you bring up a really good point, and it kind of explains where I was thinking that was coming from to begin with.
And it is a very great point, because it was kind of part of the theme when they built this restaurant, so that it looked a little bit older and kind of harkened to the history. The old grain silos that are along Church Street still kind of have that faded lettering on them.
Mm-hmm.
They did actually already paint over this. When I went down there and heard they were doing work, I spoke to them, and they had already kind of painted over this mural. So the mural, unfortunately, is no longer there. Yeah, and so we did talk about that. They did not realize that they needed to come through the process at that time, and I informed them of that. We don't really have a procedure for removing a mural or any approvals necessary, just for when art is added but not necessarily removed.
Let's definitely come back to that, because I think we may need something like that as we, as if all goes as intended, this is going to be a very desirable place to be.
Yeah.
And we want to find out how we can maintain that desirability.
Correct.
It's unfortunate that they painted over it. I don't know if I would have recommended that they not paint over it if it still existed or not. I just wanted to bring it up to the commission. But since they have painted it over, what does staff recommend for some sort of notation for the file saying, okay, that was unfortunate, but we're not, by accepting this, we're not saying you have to, remove the paint that's over it and reconstruct it, but we're not saying it's okay either. For how can we prevent this from becoming a precedent?
I think you could just include it into your motion. I think by making a note of it in the discussion, we'll note it in the minutes.
Okay.
And I think that would probably be sufficient.
Are there any other of those images on that facility, whether it's that business or not, that we need to be aware of?
No, not on this building, although the applicant is actually looking at adding a mural on the north side of the building. In the future, they haven't figured out what that might be yet, but you may see them back in the future to add a mural on the north side.
Well, so one of the design components I would just recommend, again, I don't think we can force them, but that to say we lost something is kind of strong, but to say that unfortunately a unique identifier to the site was painted over might be something they can consider when they come back with that mural.
Yeah, I will relay that message on to them, and I'll also send them this recording so they can watch it.
Well, and again, I'm very pleased about the overall development. Something, obviously, it is a vacuum right now, and it's having that in the area is going to be certainly a highlight of my weekly dining out. So,
yes, I'm not sure if y'all have been to a Baja Cantina. There's some. There's one in Keller, I know.
Oh, really? Okay, so I didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, any other questions of the committee? Hearing none, do I hear a motion? And I would ask that the motion include the comment regarding the painting over of an existing design element that might be considered in the future as mural activities are considered. Staff, help me out with that.
Yeah, I would just say with the recommendation that they consider reestablishing the character originally created with any new murals on the building. Is that what you're getting at for the
yeah, I want to do two things. Number one, I want to say, whoops, it's not that it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened as a matter of course. It should have been. That's number one. And number two, if they are indeed going to do a mural in the future, that may be something, a design element or a component of the overall design from them to incorporate back into the site.
And then I would just move to approve, noting it's unfortunate that the existing mural was painted over prior to making the application.
Okay, with all that, is there somebody who's brave enough to take on the motion? Okay, maybe I should remove that amendment then.
Michelle, didn't you just say that you could also have the language in the minutes that you could tie it to? I mean, I'm not opposed to what Jack's saying. I just don't know how to word it. It's easy to say to approve the 6 signs as presented, including the 5 modifications. But at whatever, I'm struggling with words.
Yeah, we will note in the minutes when we kind of summarize the discussion, that discussion was held regarding painting over the mural, which it was disappointing that the mural was painted over prior to coming forward for application for paint and changes, since it was a kind of a unique aspect of the building, part of the building's original design.
I'm okay without adding the motion then if it's going to be noted by staff. And like I said, we'll want to work with staff as a committee to make sure that when something like this happens, we're not inadvertently creating a precedent that makes it easier for somebody else to do something similar. So
yeah, we'll note the concern about precedent in the minutes as well.
Okay, thank you. Hear a motion for a month.
Okay, I would move approval of the 6 new signs as presented, as well as modifications to 5 of the signs as noted or described in the staff minutes.
Do I have a second?
I think before I could second, I would want to see, you mentioned that there was another better rendering of the front. That's the only one that kind of doesn't look great, but is it just going to be red lettering with
Hold on. Give me just a second to get that back up. I'm sorry. It's frozen on me.
Heather, were you talking about the image that is on the same page as the receipt?
No, it's the bottom left on the one with the 4. So the one replacing the Twisted Root Burger Company.
Yeah.
They just kind of cut and paste it, and
it does kind of look like a temporary sign, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the right size or.
So this image is kind of a better example of what those signs will look like. And so they will be, painted directly onto the building. So this is, I only have this kind of side of the building done this way, but it's, I think, a better visual representation of how it'll look when it's actually painted on, as opposed to the cut and paste in the previous exhibit.
Okay.
Something I didn't notice before, I didn't realize that it had rays coming out of it. So that's okay.
Yeah.
It does.
And that was something the artist had suggested to help sort of tie it back into some of the paint on the wall. You see the yellow paint on the wall here.
Okay. Now my apologies. I heard that, and the pieces fell into place.
Yeah, I like that better. You can see. So if you need a second, I can second the motion to approve the 6 signs.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, we are ready to move on to the next item. And I have that item as being the consideration of a letter of design approval for an exterior building design for a new mixed-use building located on the northwest corner of Elm Street and South Mill Street, and the southeast corner of Main Street and South Mill Street, as requested by Stephen Shelley, the property owner. Staff?
Yes, I'll go ahead and share my screen. So the Main and Mill building they're proposing will be located at the corner of where the K&W building used to be, and right behind the Main Street retail centers over the existing public parking lot. So this is kind of an early schematic that shows their proposal. So on the first floor, they wanted to have some kind of retail continuing from the main street along to the other side of the Mill Street, but also wrap around the corner and continue to the Mill Street. So in the future, as the Mill Street develops, that will create a connection to the existing retail centers. So they're proposing two buildings. They have a building A on the east side of the Mill Street and building B behind the Main Street retail centers. On building A, you can see that they have a leasing office at the corner with the retail portion, and I'll cover their elevation first, if that's okay with you. So as you can see, here in the number 3 is the, oh, sorry. The number 3 is the elevation that you will see if you cross the street from here, where the Christie's t-shirt shop is. This is the corner that you will see over here. So you can see they utilize the taller height and the contrast of red brick and white brick to create a more prominent corner, which wraps around along the Mill Street here at this corner. So along Main Street, as I mentioned, they will have a leasing office here. They'll have a little cut through here so that people don't have to walk all around the entire building to get to the parking lot. And they have reserved this space for any retail and restaurant to be placed. They kind of created more prominent bays for the commercial portion, creating a little bit of rhythm by, again, utilizing the contrast of white brick and the red brick. And on the Mill Street side, you can see that they carry over that same prominent corner that I mentioned earlier. As they pass through the parking lot, they have utilized canopies to give pedestrians some shade and a little bit of better experience as they walk. So again, this is the how the building is laid out. So they have a white brick here, white brick decorating each corner here with the taller tower-like bay here to truly highlight the corners. And on the building on the other side of the Mill Street, which is the building B, they have frontage on Mill Street where they're placing those retail spaces on the ground floor. And so this is the corner that will start picking back up from right here where you see the corner of Christie's and continuing to the side. This is the elevation you will see. So again, they tried to highlight the corner of Elm and Mill Street intersection by utilizing taller height with cornices, a contrast of white brick, which carries over to the Elm side corner as shown here. And also they continue that highlights over here where it is visible from the other street corner, which is going to be located here across from the South Village. The building combined, they will add about 175 public parking spaces on the ground floor and about 202 residential units. As shown here, they will have a double volume retail office space with 4 levels of residential sitting above 2 levels of parking and some underground parking where it's available. They use slightly less brick on the interior elevations. So here, this is the back side of the Mill Street on the building A, which is on the east side of the Mill Street. You can see on the 4th level that they're using a little more stucco. However, in its entirety, they're still over 80% brick. I'm just showing you a different rendering than the packet because this says color and it's a little bit easier to see. So all the interior facing, inner court facing elevations, they will utilize a little more stucco. However, the contrast of the red brick and the brown brick is carried over to create the sense of beige. Like I said, they're proposing to use mainly brick. Three types of bricks are proposed. Sorry, my computer is responding kind of slowly.
June, as you're going through these, I don't mean to distract you, but
You're fine.
you've mentioned that we've seen two sides of each one of the buildings.
Mhm.
We may not have seen the ends. Is that true, or is that?
So the all elevations are provided. Not
Okay.
all elevations were in color, but then
Okay.
there are previous submittal, which is still quite similar to what is being proposed, except that their revised elevation has a lot more details and a little more white brick to create the contrast. So these elevations are provided. I just thought if you look at the color, it's a little bit easier to
No, and
material changes. Yeah.
okay, thank you. You've confirmed that the corner is not edge wrapped around the entire facade of that face of the building. It does go back into the kind of the design components of the broken up, the we call them veins, and different stylistic components that are shown on the other side. The sides, that's hard to say. Shown on the sides you did show us. Okay.
Yes. So I was trying to highlight the most, I guess, the elevations with the most design detail because they really are important from the street view,
right,
and street experience. However, the quality of 80% or over masonry with just the fourth floor having a little more stucco percentage, it carries over all elevations. They still utilize the contrast of red and brown brick to create the vertical separation.
Now, on the top of this rendering, what is that black or dark gray band across the top?
You mean on the roof?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's composite shingle that's shown.
Okay, so it's going to be angled back away from those vertical components on the edges.
Correct. They will have some taller parapets on the surface, but over the building, they will have kind of roof line going through the middle, and then they'll have a slope looped roof wherever it's, I guess, appropriate. So you can kind of see how the roof kind of slopes back to the center, to the peak.
Okay. Is there any other information staff wants to present before we throw it open?
The applicants are here. The architect, Mark Hill, is here if you have any other detailed questions that you guys want to ask.
Hey, Mark, I hope that red light lasts a long time. I'm teasing you. Thank you for being there. Any comments from the committee?
I guess I have actually two questions directed at the architect. Let's see, the building on the southwest corner and then northwest corner, the former bank building on the corner, and then the other building that used to be, I guess, looking at history, was a grocery store. They have angled entrances, or they were entrances. One is still an entrance. And to me, that's I've seen that in other older downtowns in other states and everything. So and then I think on the property line, actually, it's angled a little bit. To me, that's kind of an important historic feature that I wish would have been carried into this design somehow. And then the other thing I found was, I think, that's your 100% corner, Mill and Main, not Elm and Main, or not Elm and Mill, but you're creating that white stone, a very prominent corner there. And I think that the Mill and Main corner, the southeast corner of that building A is very prominent. And I don't see it. Maybe that's my eyes, but I don't see it. I see it much more on the building B. The other thing I have is I don't find the main street really that pedestrian friendly. I mean, you got sort of, I don't know, office type windows that go to the sidewalk. And if you look at any of the retail, you go up Main, you have a bulkhead, and then you have the window, like the raised area off the sidewalk. So that doesn't give me I don't know, like I say, a pedestrian friendly facade. And I guess I'm just asking Mark, as the architect, was that given any consideration, or is there other reasons why it's all glass basically to the ground level, to the sidewalk?
Well, I think when we looked at these retail spaces, we look at them like a very standard retail space, similar like you'd see in South Lake when you're walking in the downtown area there, or other situations where you've got commercial space and you typically don't see those windows raised off the sill. And historically, if you look throughout large cities, going back to the 1900s, you see full height glass actually going to the ground. But if this is something that's a real issue for you guys, we could certainly consider making the change. But I think historically, you could see these exact type conditions in other old cities.
And then the address the corner issue a little more about making it more prominent, or like you say, clipped off or something, that what's occurring on the west side of Mill Street.
We didn't look at trying to reflect exactly what was on the adjacent corner, but we did try to create a prominent feature and entries on that corner, and canopies that provided a human scale that made it relatable to a person walking down the street.
Randy, any other follow-ups?
No, that's just me. I would prefer to see a bulkhead, and I guess I would respectfully disagree with Mark. I mean, downtown Chicago and in other large cities, and they're all raised. And I just last week was in Lakeside Village in Flower Mound. That's a new town, new development, and they're all raised up. So, and you get the feeling, kind of a recreated downtown, even though I'm not a real fan of those recreated downtowns. But nonetheless, but that's just my opinion.
No, thank you, Randy. I had a couple of questions regarding that interface as well. I certainly can understand in some of the turn of the century retail access that floor to ground or ceiling to ground window panels provided historically was really important. My question is kind of like yours, Randy. I was wondering if there was any consideration or preparation for street furniture or streetscaping on the outside of the building. How wide is a sidewalk?
quite honestly, I would have to look at the landscape drawings and put a scale to it. But looking at the width of these parking spaces, I'm looking at the site plan right now in front of me. I would say it's probably 12 to 15 feet along Main Street.
So are we to expect some planter boxes and some tree wells?
Jack, my understanding as a part of a civil plan review is that they could either provide the landscape on their property or put it on the right of way. So the city had a project to improve the Main Street and the Mill Street. So the city landscape architect is coordinating with the client's landscape architect to provide the trees and the landscaping here. So I think only landscaping they're providing is along little areas where the building has indentation. I think they might plant some shrubs along there, but the sidewalk, I think the city is putting in with trees kind of along the right of way.
And June, thank you. I know that is an area that kind of falls in and out of our consideration, but to address some of Randy's concerns, and certainly I think Randy's brought up some common issues that I've held as well, is that it's awfully antiseptic is not the right word. It's way too strong, but it's very clean, streamlined. I don't know. It's the view that way. Certainly, I appreciate the incorporation of the different brick colors and the white stone, the pitched roof on part of it. I think that does add to kind of the. It breaks up that the size of the project, but so things like landscaping will be, whether it falls in this group's purview or not, will be important to the overall aesthetic of this project. There's just no doubt. I don't see how you get around that. And
well, there are very specific requirements for landscaping, and I know the landscape architect and the civil engineer have been working closely with the city and their comments to get that landscaping exactly how they want it.
Okay.
How the city wants it.
Well, it sounds like that interest is being represented by another group, so I'll just back off of it and be more. I'm certainly more comfortable knowing that they are, because I think it does. And again, it's probably not the right word, but it softens what I think I see right now quite a bit. I'm hoping it will soften that. And knowing that you have a full 15 feet to work with, I think that will be really important to that. So, Randy, any other questions, or the other committee members?
June, just for clarity, are they adding additional sidewalk, or is what was provided with the main and mill improvements going to be the sidewalk that's there?
It will be what the city puts in, that they'll be there.
I do have a question that's not design related, but I don't want to ask that until I make sure everybody else has their opportunity to pitch in. Ben, or any other questions?
Just to go back to that about the sidewalk, so can you go back to the last plan view?
Yes.
All the new sidewalk is put in, brick pavers or everything in, there's a little planting area along the curb. So what happens then on Main Street? Go to building A, then between what's shown is the facade and the property line, where your arrow is, what's in that area right there?
Right. Actually, I'm not sure if this is the most
recent
current one. Yeah.
Okay.
But wherever possible, I think they're gonna they're going to have a parallel parking here. These are parallel parking spaces, and I think they're going to have sidewalk, but I don't think this project is putting in any additional landscaping other than, like I mentioned, some shrubs are kind of proposed along wherever they have little indentations.
Yeah, I was going to see if I could try to find the current landscape plan and send that to you, June, if you could pull it up. I would just need 1 second to access it.
Yep. If you email it to me, I should be able to look at it.
Okay. Give me one moment here, because I don't want you guys to walk away with any questions.
Well, we certainly provide all the information you're providing, Mark, and we always, I think I can speak for the committee, we always love a good conversation, and some of this may, like I mentioned earlier, for my concern, might fall kind of in and out of the consideration of the Old Town Design Review Committee, but it's important for us to get the overall context.
Right. Yeah, I'm accessing the server right now. If you guys have any other discussions you want to have, and I'll see what I can do to pull this up real quick.
Well, I don't mean to have you think and operate a computer at the same time, because that's well beyond my capability. But I was going to ask about the parking. Knowing how car-centric we are and how we're moving away from that, we want to move away from that. I think the numbers I've seen kind of, I'm interpreting them as being much more efficient in the use of parking. Are they going to be shared? Is each site going to support its own parking load, or is it going to be shared parking?
So I'll try to answer that as best as I can. So they have an economic development agreement with the city to provide 175 space open for public access, and they provided their own parking at smaller ratio than what we typically require on the multifamily. I think they're providing total, let's see.
I saw 202.
202, yeah.
Is the number of residential units, and I think it's provided at. So typically we require 1.2. I think 1 per 2 parking spaces. I think they went to close to either 1.4 or 1.2.
I have to look it back up again, but yeah, we typically require 2 spaces per unit. But lately we've been reducing that, especially around our transit and in Old Town. We've got a lot more units and percentages of units that are either studio or 1 bedroom. And so I believe they're requesting a reduced ratio to 1.4 or 1.5 parking spaces per unit.
Okay. And as for will each building support its own parking, or are they going to be sharing it back and forth?
My understanding, go ahead, Mark.
It supports its own parking.
Okay.
Or its own, yeah, each one. Okay, so I pulled up that site plan for you. Let me shoot this over to you.
While he's doing that, question of staff, again, it falls out of our purview, but are we aware of any capital improvements being programmed for Mill or Main Street in the area, whether it be water or drainage or other utilities?
Nothing other than the project that they're just now completing.
Okay.
There will need to be, on the north side of Building B, there will need to be some utilities, I think, moved around a little bit, but it's not really a capital project.
Yes, along with this project, we cleaned up some of the electrical lights that were hanging overhead electrical lights, and I know they coordinated with the city relocating some of the drainages and sewer line realignment and so on and so forth. I think there was a lot of coordination that was going to be with the civil sets.
June, you brought up a really interesting thing I hadn't thought about before, but is there any lighting considerations that were included in the submittal or need to be considered as we talk about this?
Not that I'm aware of. I know city may put in some street lights as part of our project, but nothing associated with this project.
But nothing to light up the building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and any exterior lighting and signage would have to come back to the committee for a separate.
Very good.
Hey, June, did you get that first email?
I did. I did. I got the L1 sheet. Is that what you want to share?
That's one of them, and then I'm sending you the accompanying site planting plan with that.
Okay, I haven't received the second one, but let me pull up the first one and share that so you guys can at least start looking at it. So I think this is the building A street corner. Let me see if I can enlarge it. So it looks like along Main Street, just sidewalks are proposed. Along Mill Street, there are some trees.
Yeah,
planted.
and then let me shoot this over to you. Tell me this too.
Staff, while he's doing that, is there any other design review of this, whether it's the P&Z review that still has to occur, or is ours the only one outstanding?
So OTDRC is the only one. This is required for them to obtain building permit. The engineering site plan, the civil plan review is complete. They're still going through the building plan reviews. Based on the suggestions that staff made, they have changed their elevations, and they wanted to come to TDRC to make sure they can move forward. Once this process is done, they will likely resubmit revisions to the for the building permit review.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure we're not in the way, and make sure the process is moving on. So thank you.
Okay, here's
I'm sorry.
Here's an image of the planting along the front of building A that I just sent you, June. Sorry, it's just a little laggy on this end with my access to the server.
Okay, I think I got it. Give me a second to pull it up. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen so you guys can see it.
Hopefully that's going to be clear enough because I'm having some issues with downloading it. So you can see there's a lot of green space along the front of the building, and we've provided street trees as well as trees adjacent to the building with a planting area.
Okay.
So it's going to have a very soft edge to it.
So Mark, just where do, it's not, I know the purview of this committee, but where do people, if they're the residents and they want to go out on the main street, or you have visitors who are coming to visit, is that double doors on Main? Is that where you go in the building, or?
Yes, yeah, the double doors on Main, and then there's an entry that is down further on Mill Street.
Okay.
There's a stair tower kind of about, I want to say it's almost directly across the street from the entry into Building B.
So let me see.
Yeah, there we go.
This is, I think, what he's talking about, correct?
Yeah, there's a right next. Yeah, there's a stairwell right next to the garage entry.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah, and there's that that entry gets you into the building as well for the residents and visitors.
Was that walkthrough portal that was mentioned in staff's presentation, Jim?
No, this is the walkthrough portal, and this is the smaller door with the staircases for the human entry next to the garage entry. I'll show you how it reflects on the elevation. So this is a garage entry with the human entry with the elevator and the staircases. And the cut through that I was talking about, is because this is their lease.
Okay, so okay. Sorry, I was thinking it was on the other street. Okay.
I see. Yeah, they have this. So you can kind of see it a little bit better on their plan because you can kind of see their, cut through from the main street. They don't really have that here because, it's like a parking garage, so you can kind of enter by car or by staircases.
Given that both of these buildings are of the same development plan, I know that the tenants will probably be unique to each one of the buildings, but will there be any need for signage going back from one to the other?
Are you talking about directional type signage?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I would think that there would be some more internal to the building that might lead you there, but I don't know that we'll necessarily have exterior signage that that says swimming pool or anything like that. Stephen, are you able to chime in on your thoughts on that? Stephen Shelley's the owner.
I'm sorry, guys. I've got a 7-month-old here in my arms, so forgive me if he's trying to add his 2 cents also. I don't see any need for any kind of directional signage on the exterior of the buildings, if that's the question.
And I'm not necessarily saying I'm opposed to it. I just the way it's set up, just some questions. Trying to put yourself into that context. That's one of the questions that I had. So thank you for the answer. And as for the 7-month-old comments, it's probably better than mine. So heck, he knows what he likes, or she knows what she likes. So, any other?
Okay.
Randy, did we answer your questions? Do we have any unresolved?
No.
Other committee members, any questions or comments?
Do you all want to make a recommendation to modify the corner of Main and Mill with more white brick? Is that something that, based on Randy's comment, that you guys consider recommending?
Okay, if I can, before I put it to the committee, it's a great question, June. I would be I wouldn't want to write or request that without actually seeing what it looked like, because I know the fine balance that I think that's already been worked on. You don't want to create too stark a corner, but you do want to have something with the visual interest. And I don't know how to achieve that balance in the form of a directive at this point. But I'm willing to be moved. I'll put that. The committee, you heard June's comment. Any reaction? I'm only seeing 5 beautiful faces on my computer. Who do we have? Are we still all on?
We have. I'm not sure where Mr. Utley has gone. I'm not sure what happened there. I did try calling him, but he was unavailable.
We still have a quorum, correct?
We do. Yes.
Awesome. Heather, I'll put you on the spot. Any comment?
Overall, I'm really excited about the project and looking forward to it. We have been talking about it a long time, so eager to see the dirt move and get it going. To the comments of the kind of the Main Street appearance rather than something similar to South Lake or new construction. Of course, we probably would all want to see that. I don't know what that does to the development as it stands right now. They're pretty far into it. So I don't know if there's something they can show us that could reach that a little more. But overall, excited about the project. See it come to fruition.
Thank you. I think those were very well said.
Mark, from your standpoint as the architect, I mean, I think overall the building is great. But do you think adding a little more embellishment to that Main Street corner, whether it's that white brick or whatever, would that be too great of a change, or is that going to totally mess up the design?
It's not a huge change. Actually, can we go back to that that elevation?
Excuse me.
Yeah. So as we're looking at that entry element there, that is white now on it's kind of on the corner. It takes away the specialness that's created by that white element, and when you then expand it to the full bay, that entry is no longer accentuated, and that would be my fear, that we lose that. It becomes just a large white mass as opposed to that one particular entry element into the retail space being unique.
I think I would agree with that too, because then you've just got a big white block. It's not accenting the opening. So I think I agree with you, Mark. I don't think that would fix any.
Brandy, though, can you go back to what was your original comment on that?
Well, my first point was, again, just because of the buildings that are, like, say, to the west, as well as how the lot lines of that property, I mean, the corner was clipped. So was there any thought, I'm not saying you should do it, just was there any thought to bringing that element into the building? And I think Mark addressed that. And the second thing was, because that is your 100% corner in the downtown area, to have something more prominent. I thought that they added a lot of prominence to the Elm and Mill Street corner. That's what you now see at the bottom there.
Yeah, so
And
Michelle,
something like that on the other building, because I think the main and Mill is a much more important corner than Elm and Mill. That's my point.
Okay.
But again,
I just wanted clarification.
They're far down. I want to screw up the design, but that's just, I was hoping that maybe could
Randy,
make it more prominent.
Hearing you repeat your comments from the past, my brain was spinning quite a bit, and I'm thinking, what are the design components of other buildings I've seen that kind of made it more recognizable or integral to the overall feel of that, I hate to use this phrase, the sense of place that it's providing. And one of the components was a foundation block or a erection plaque, something to call the attention to it. I don't know if that's appropriate, but again, trying to really think on what you were describing, that those two components seem to pop in my mind. I'll just throw it to Mark or to staff to, if it's obviously we're not gonna require a design component, but those would be some of the ideas that this humble planner would say, okay, that might offer that, on one hand, the softening of it, and number two, a more illustrative, this presence of that part of the building.
And you're talking about the right-hand side of the building B elevation?
I don't have, June, where your cursor is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is building B facing Main Mill Street. I think Randy's point is here you can kind of more see the street corner being more prominent because this white brick wraps around to the Elm and the Mill Street, versus like Mark mentioned that on the Main and Mill, the entry feature is more highlighted than the whole entire bay. I think Randy's suggestion was, should we consider swapping them so that this becomes more of a prominent corner tower feature versus the other corner having that white wrap around the corner. So right now we're talking about this looking.
Right now we're go back to that site, that
Yes.
view, June. I'm sorry.
You're fine. I'll go back.
Just a bit, again, you deal with these plans day in and day out. They're still kind of foreign to me. Right now I'm standing in the middle of Main Street looking at the building, correct?
Mm-hmm. So what you're seeing is if you were backing, if you were facing this building, and if you had the Huffines tire store behind you,
right?
This is what you will see. And across the street over to the right, you will see a small corner of Christie's t-shirt store. Across that, you will see the Huggins Law Office. I can show you the street view again if you want to.
And Randy, what you were saying is that corner that June just had on her screen would appear to be the main corner to you.
To me,
and that was your concern?
Yes.
It will be this corner
right
from Main Street.
Okay.
Sorry. In this corner, you see. Sorry.
And I can see Randy's point that there is a significant level of visual interest on the other corners compared to this one.
So Randy's point is here, isn't this corner should receive more white brick versus this corner? Right now, this
or
corner.
some other design element like Jack was trying to allude to. Yeah, that's.
And Randy, forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth.
It's not a deal breaker.
It's just, I think it's a valid observation, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, Randy. So, stop me if I am. So.
Well, we don't want this to be a roadblock for us. If this is something you feel strongly about, I can certainly understand that. I really rely heavily on our designers in the office to make these types of decisions. But if you want this corner to be more white, I don't think that architecturally I have an issue with it. Or Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong. From a owner's perspective, would that be a problem?
I don't think I have any real issue with that. I mean, I think the intent here was to highlight not just how things lay out relative to the streets, but also what's actually going in the spaces. Well, one of the reasons that the sort of the bigger spot there on Main Street is highlighted a bit more is because that's the leasing office. That's something from a leasing standpoint we want to draw attention to. Also, the hard corner main mill there. We can certainly add some more white, but there's also it's not going to be a grand entrance anyway because there's a traffic signal box sitting there. I guess isn't going anywhere as far as I understand. So I think, and I don't want to put words into the architect's mouth here, but I think they were trying to design around what's ultimately going to be there, not just how the pictures are going to look. But if the directive here is add some more white there, I don't have any objection.
Mark, if I may interject, do you guys know when your resubmittal is planned for this architectural changes to go back to George Babineau for his review?
We're looking at probably the first or second week of January.
Because Michelle, can I get your opinion on this? We could try to see both options on the 11th if we have a meeting there, but would you think that's a good way to move forward, or what do you suggest?
Well, I'd say it's up to the committee. I think Randy had just suggested if there's some way the architect could add more prominence to that corner, however they best see fit. But I think it's really just up to the committee and their motion and what they'd like to do. We certainly can bring this back before them if that's something they'd like to see at their next meeting. Their next meeting, you said, was January 11th.
That's the second. That is the second Monday on the January. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that would be the next possible time that this could come back before the committee, or the committee could go ahead and make a motion on the design that they see before them today. So those are the options.
Okay, so if we did that, and so I'm understanding, I would venture to say this is just an option. I'm not saying we're doing this, but if we came up with an idea to table this, to get those design concepts, we are not delaying their progress on this important project in a critical way.
Well, I mean, it will still affect a lot of many pages of architectural sheets, so I don't want to say that, but I'm not really sure if you guys, if the committee feels strongly about one or the other options at this point.
I don't want to be a roadblock. My issue not to be a roadblock, so I don't want to impede the progress or continuing on this project. So
and Randy, I'm of the opinion if we needed to, we shouldn't feel bad about it, but if it was just a comment or a point of interest, certainly I think the committee, I'll leave it up to the committee to determine as they kick around a motion to proceed how important that design component is to them. But I just wanted to make sure that we all knew the potential we want to balance our desire to perfect the project in our minds without delaying it. So thank you for letting me point that out. So any other questions of staff for the folks who are so kind to be here today?
So would you like us to come back with just a rendering showing the white at that corner of the building and see if it pops any more for you and makes that that corner
Well,
spectacle enough?
Mark, I think our concern was we did not want to be the source of delay. We'd love for that to happen, but we don't necessarily haven't pulled the trigger on an action that would require extra time or commitment on y'all's part. That's the vibe I'm getting from the rest of the committee, and I'm waiting to hear if they feel that way, how their motion will play out. If so, my instructions to Randy and Heather, if there's a desire to see more, I guess that's at the heart of what your motion will be.
My comments would be, like I said before, the project happening timely and happening as presented is more important to me than seeing another rendering of some white. But if it doesn't delay the project and you all want to see it, then we should take that opportunity. But again, I don't want to push back weeks and weeks to see a picture we may not make a change based on.
Understand. Randy?
I don't want to see a delay either. I would agree with Heather. But kind of got from June, though, that there might be a little bit of a hiccup to hold off until the 11th.
I'm not sure. I'll let Mark speak to that. I mean, he was saying that they're still working on the revision, correct?
Yeah, well, we didn't want to have to go back and revise the building again based upon more comments. So if we're just talking about a change of color right at that corner, I don't think that would slow us down. Because it's such a minor change. So I don't see that as being problematic. I mean, my big worry was that, you wanted us to, add another entry feature or something like that we'd have to incorporate it into our drawings before we go back and resubmit to the city. But if it's something as just simple as a change of the brick at the corner, that's not going to be an issue.
So, members of the committee, I think I'm certainly expect for any direction you would like to go, I think is fair at this point. So, do I hear a motion?
I guess based on what Mark just said, I guess I would move to approve I don't know how it's written, but the design plans for the project as submitted, subject to minor modification of the brick color on the southeast corner of Building A. June or Michelle, is that capturing it or what?
I think it's northwest corner of Building A. Mm-hmm. But I think that captured.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Good. Okay. Mm-hmm. Northwest corner of Building A.
Mm-hmm.
Any discussion?
I think that captures what we wanted to do. If it's not going to hold them back and they don't mind showing us that rendering, let's see it. But second, the approval of the design plans as submitted, subject to that option.
So we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? Say aye. All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion passes. Awesome. I really appreciate the conversation and the willingness to hear us kick it around, Mark. That's the longest streetlight signal I've ever seen in my life. So I hope you get a green light soon.
Well, I had to go down to Granbury to a job site today. Oh. So I was down here and I just had to pull off and just sit and wait. So it's not a big deal.
Well, that's a pretty part of the state to do it in. So
It is. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to review this. And, we'll get this back to staff and have them run it by you and you tell us which way you want to go. color-wise for that corner.
Very good.
Great design, Mark, and a great project, Steve, for the community. And
Thank you.
Congratulations. Staff, any other comments we need to chat about while we have everybody on the line? Regarding
Thank
the
you.
comprehensive plan or anything?
No, sir.
Well, with that, I certainly appreciate everybody. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
second.
Awesome. Then we are adjourned. Thank you so much. And we look forward to see you. Looks like we do know the next date is January 11th.
Okay.
Richard, June,
Aye.
any other staff? Nope. Okay, then we're done. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.